this is Transformers Fanco 328 here, and it's time to do a video that I'm positive no one has ever done before. F you, I'm lazy. Theodore Rex! Hated video game characters. As I'm sure you already know, with any story, good or bad, there are characters you'll love and characters you'll want to falcon punch in the face. Now this was actually kind of a hard list to make because it was tough finding 10 video game characters that I really hated, and the 3 characters I hated the most in fiction come from anime. So unless I wanted to get a copyright strike on my channel, which I don't, they're off the list, and I won't be able to go as all out as I had intended. At least I found a video game character I can rage that much about. Even though I might not have played every game that every character featured here is from, I do know enough about their stories to justify their place here. Here are some of the common choices not on the list, and of course, a shit ton of spoilers for a shit ton of games. Now let's get on with my biggest video project yet, my top 10 most hated video game characters. Unlike the later examples, I don't really hate him with a burning passion. I just dislike him. Mostly considering the game's other major villains can be recruited with spot pass chapters, and they can display some more compelling traits with their support dialogue and interactions on the DLC maps. Since Valadar didn't get a spot pass chapter or a role in the DLC to expand him properly, and in the story he comes off as being evil for the sake of being the token evil character, I find little reason to care about him. Especially because who would trust a guy who looks like this?
He's the villain! He's the villain! The bad guy! He's the villain!
Alright, last Nostalgia Critic joke, I promise. And besides, the game doesn't even try to hide it either. That's not even getting into his character and actions being entirely driven by the fell dragon Grima, who also gets little characterization beyond being the ultimate evil in the world and the center of the game's conflict. But at least both of them provided epic final battles in the story, so that's ultimately why I'm not that pissed off at them. While Grima has implications that their motives are beyond human comprehension, which is an admittedly lame-ass excuse, Valadar's just the bad guy, and little more. They even had a good angle to go from, and yet they didn't even try. On a side note, Grima's Japanese name is Gimli. I wish I could make that shit up. One of these choices is not like the others. One of these choices is the modern-day Duck Hunt dog. At least the Duck Hunt dog got redeemed by Smash Brothers. What's their excuse? A more frustrating spin-off? Copen frustrates me. Why? Let's see if I can save you some time and explain it in 30 words. He could have saved us all a lot of trouble if he just let his adept hatred go for a bit and helped Gunvolt take down Sumeragi. But he didn't. That should get the point across. When you first start your journey through Unova, he seems like nothing more than a spokesperson for Team Plasma at local gatherings, albeit occasionally letting his ego slip in, but nothing major. He seems unimportant compared to N and the legendary dog, so some players could potentially ignore him for most of the game. After a great finale with N, Ghetsis barges in and reveals everything. He forced N to be raised with hurt Pokemon from his childhood, made N nothing more than a puppet king for Team Plasma, and that the entire PETA movement was nothing more than an elaborate scheme to, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course.
Sorry, couldn't resist. N, as well as the player, were played for fools the whole time. And since Ghetsis refuses to let his plans collapse on him, he decides that the best thing to do is to use a hastily put together team with an almost guaranteed trump card ready to completely devastate you because he hacked this f***ing thing into his party, ruining a perfect finale even if for a brief moment. This doesn't even bring up the fact that he tries to kill the player character in the sequels. I don't care if the intent wasn't to impale them, they'd still be frozen in likely sub-zero temperatures. No human's gonna live through that unless Captain America's Super Soldier Serum is a commonplace genetic trait in the Pokemon world. which would explain a lot, actually. Well, he's really just a generic doomsday villain with no real character to him whatsoever. A plot device meant to fill a certain role, like a lot of fighting game bosses, so I can't get angry at him for his personality, or lack thereof. My hatred comes from one thing. His boss fight is so f***ing cheap! You know how I said in my Bloody Marie video that I play fighting game bosses on the lowest settings to prove how hard they are? Well, this is a case where even on easy, he kicks my ass on a daily basis. To the point of getting perfects on me! On f***ing easy! He's going to be on my hardest bosses list, so I'll save the elaborate explanations for that video. But I'll just sum it up as this. He copies the worst aspects of previous Tekken bosses, and his size makes it hard to avoid his attacks or get a hit on him when a large size is often a fatal flaw for a fighting game boss. Like a certain fighting game boss that everyone exaggerates the difficulty of. Speaking of which... I say that young Xehanort wasn't that hard in Kingdom Hearts 3D, and his difficulty is exaggerated by the Countdown community. It doesn't mean I like the battle, or the character for that matter. Much like one of my trifecta of hated anime characters, Nobuyuki Sugo, a lot of the issues I have with the story, though not all of them, can be directed at this character. His presence and actions provide a big hole in regards to the whole time travel thing, but I already went on about that plot twist in another video. He also traps Sora into a comatose state of darkness to make him the 13th vessel of Xehanort, leaving Sora with only one final boss, and Riku with a whopping 5! Including the rather poorly designed fight against Bishonort himself, and a possessed Sora, whose pointlessness actually gave me 358 over 2 days flashbacks. Despite all of that, my biggest reason for hating him is what he does in another game, Birth by Sleep. I still stand by the mysterious figure being the hardest boss I've ever faced, and I first fought him 5 years ago! Fighting this guy feels less like a fair yet tough clash against a stronger opponent, and more like fighting a cheap Mugen character without any exploits for you to take advantage of. And when Bishonort started popping up in the trailers for Kingdom Hearts 3D, Nomura just up and said that he's the mysterious figure from Birth by Sleep. That's actually why I find him not that bad in 3D. I was absolutely horrified that he mopped the floor with me, only to find that I was able to take him down with the most barbaric of Kingdom Hearts strategies. When I hear the word traitor, I instantly think of Constable Neela from Sly 2 Band of Thieves, still the best entry in the Sly Cooper games. She led the Cooper gang in the direction of the Claw gang in their search for the clockwork parts, and even helped Sly out in a few of the missions. After she leads Sly to a pissed-off Rajan in the middle of Episode 3's heist gone wrong, Neela runs off and leaves Sly to get his ass kicked, and when Murray reasonably beats the hell out of Rajan in one of the most satisfying boss fights I've ever played, she goes and turns Sly, Murray, and Carmelita to the Contessa. This resulted in Bentley having to deal with a highly guarded prison town, easily one of the hardest parts of the game, just to bust his best buds out. Even when Neela gets the credit for putting the Contessa behind bars, she tried to steal the Clockwork Eyes during the big heist of Episode 5, and attacks the Cooper gang in the midst of their heist in the last of Jean Bison's trains. Twice! Way to retain your public reputation. And when the Cooper gang reaches Arpeggio's blimp, Sly discovers that she was in cahoots with the Claw gang the whole time, only for Neela to right then and there betray Arpeggio when presented with a fully repaired Clockwork body, turns the brilliant schemer into a punchline, and proceeds to go through with the Spice plan to provide her with enough hatred to keep her immortal, dubbing herself Clockla. At least it's better than knee work. She's also responsible for breaking Bentley's spine and Murray's emotional state, even if for a short time. At least I can compliment her for being written well, as this was likely the intended reaction. And seeing as how only one other character is on here for being well written, that says a lot about my tolerance of lazy character writing. Wow! There's not one thing I like about this kid. And he's supposed to be the main hero of Soul Calibur 5. Others have already explained in detail as to why he fails as a hero, so in short, his playstyles are blatant copies of those from currently absent pre-existing characters, taking up 2 slots on the roster for no other goddamn reason. He's selfish, moronic, a spotlight hog, and a murderer hiding behind flimsy excuses.
How unfortunate there's no way to prove it.
What hero talks like that? He also looks generic and mostly played puppet to Nightmare and Elysium. There's not much else to say about him. The Corner Guy put it best when he brought up Dr. Weil as his most despised... Wrong Dr. Weil. There we go. The Corner Guy put it best when he brought up Dr. Weil as his most despised character in fiction during his top 15 most hated video game characters video. So there's not much to say that hasn't been said already. He's manipulative, sadistic, started the deadliest war in the series solely because he was a douche, still a cruel son of a bitch even when dead, and even has frightening parallels to real-life dictators like Hitler and Stalin. What makes me hate him most, though, is that he has a point in relation to humans and power. Look back to Mega Man 9, or even X6. Both plots involved the main bosses fighting back because they were meant to be scrapped. Sort of. In 9, it was an expiration date law meant to try and keep these machines under human control, which gave Wily the point he needed to get the robots to rebel and attack. Even though Wily isn't exactly for robot equality, the flaw in the logic of the law is still legitimate, given how close to human robots are at this point in the series. In X6, Gate's backstory was that his creations were far too powerful, so his colleagues feared them and had them destroyed. Yet Gate was able to use the Nightmare virus to bring them back, and
get revenge on all low Reploids who couldn't appreciate my ability.
As dumb as that sounds, also remember that Weil had to be around during the Maverick Wars, a time where not even half a decade passed before it became a global threat due to the Eurasia colony drop of X5. No wonder he despises Reploids. That's not to say he's right, as justifying and excusing are two different things here. Just because someone has a good reason for doing something does not mean that something is a good act, especially given the way he presents himself. Can you really sympathize with someone who outright admits that freedom is worthless? Now let's waste some more of your time and recap. Number 10, Medieval Darth Vader. Number 9, Pork Chops. Number 8, Not Proto Man. Number 7, Peter's Dream Gone Mad. Number 6, The Purple Winged Dragon of Ra. Number 5, Chief Mugen character. Number 4,
Betrayal!
Number 3, Jean Arc's evil cousin. And number 2, 2003 Baxter Stockman. My most hated character is from BlazBlue. So it has to be Hazumo, right? Nope. This is a list of hated characters, not love-to-hate characters, given that he clearly enjoys being an unlikable bastard so much that I can't help but be amused, if not disgusted, by his cruelty. Is it Relius, then?
So that's him. He's becoming a nuisance.
Not even him. He has a dignified presence that almost always gave him my attention. Not to mention, both have fun and unique gameplay styles to use and go up against, and they pack awesome astral heats. In addition, they have a lot of screen time, so they more than leave their mark on being funny, evil, and most of all, memorable. As of Chrono Phantasma, both were incapacitated in some way, which means that to keep things going, there's going to be a new main villain. That's our new main villain? She looks like the gay love child of Seymour Grotto and the Mad King Gongrel. Now I'm curious as to what name they decided to give such a dignified design.
The name of Hades is Anami.
Ah, spoiler alert!
At least she might be fun to watch. She's boring as balls and barely on screen to begin with. I guess she'll be fun to play as. She's an assist to the unplayable boss character. At least her plan will be interesting, to kill everyone except a chosen few. Why? She's the embodiment of death. And that worked in relation to why she wanted to end the Continuum Shift back in, Continuum Shift, because it meant that no one really died. Now she wants to kill everyone because... It's more of a reason than the story gave. And don't bring up that she wants to create the true BlazBlue. That's just how she wants to go about bringing instant death to the world. Which in and of itself sounds like a horrible flanderization of her position. Getting rid of Terumi and Relius now and leaving us with this uninspired bitch is like if Hirohiko Araki killed off Dio halfway through Stardust Crusaders and replaced him with someone like Onslaught. It's not only adding an unneeded force of nature type antagonist without warning, but it also ruins the story by not giving you a lasting, worthwhile, memorable, entertaining antagonist to defeat at the end. Just like Necron from Final Fantasy IX. Though there was build-up towards Saya and the Imperator before, the Izanami thing kind of pops out of a great mighty pooper. And Izanami herself has little character, no motivation, or anything to make her stand out amongst her predecessors. She is defined by the threat she poses and nothing else. In other words, the worst kind of generic doomsday villain. It doesn't help that she single-handedly set our heroes into a pathetic state where they can do little to stop her, especially given how the ending did a total 180 purely to keep the stakes high for the next game. And the same game-breaking technique that killed Terumi did all to her. Villains sue much? They even had a good angle to go from, like Valadar did. But every time I try to use that to improve her character, I just end up with New 13. So all it does is compound my hatred of Izanami. You don't even get to really fight her yet! I'm Transformers Fanco 328, and it's really sad when a lot of the story-based games I play end up being outclassed by f***ing Pokemon!
Oh my! Excuse me, I haven't laughed like that in quite a while! It might take me a moment to get my breath back. I think I'm crying.